Okay, final subtopic for this chapter, which is on Doppler effect. So in this subtopic, you should be able to state Doppler effect for sound waves and apply Doppler effect equation for relative motion between source and observer. So this is only limit to stationary observer and moving source, and then vice versa. Okay, so Doppler effect is defined as the change in the apparent ataupun change in the observed frequency of a wave as a result of relative motion between the source and the observer. Okay, so there is a change in frequency due to the motion between the source and the observer lah. Okay, mathematically it is written like this, where V here is the speed of sound, and then Vs is the speed of source, and V naught is the speed of observer, F naught is the apparent frequency ataupun the observed punya frequency, and then lastly it is the source punya frequency. Okay, so let's look when the source is moving and then the observer is stationary. Okay, so if the source is moving and the observer is stationary, the equation are like this. Okay, so we are going to use V minus Vs. Okay, so why is it minus? Why are we using minus? Is because now the speed of sound so the source, the velocity of the source is in the same direction with the speed of sound. Okay, so that's why it is negative. Okay, V minus Vs, because sekarang ni Vs is in the same direction with the speed of sound. Okay, and then let's look when the source is moving away from the stationary observer. Okay, so now it is moving away from the stationary observer. The velocity of the the source is in the opposite direction with the speed of sound. So when it happens, when it is like that, the V plus V will be positive Vs lah. V plus Vs, positive Vs. Okay, so dia akan jadi plus di sini. Okay, and then let's look for moving observer and stationary source pula. Sekarang ni source is stationary. Okay, so observer is moving towards the stationary source. If we look at this, V naught is in the opposite direction with V. So if it's in the opposite direction, it will be positive. So that's why this ini ada plus. Okay, and then if it's the other way around, where the V naught is in the same direction with V, dia akan jadi negative lah, minus. Okay, so that is the rules that you have to remember if you can't figure out whether you should use positive ataupun negative, plus ataupun minus. Okay, right, so this is the apparent frequency. This is the relationship between the apparent frequency, which is the observed frequency, and the distance traveled by the source as it approaches towards ataupun moving away from a stationary observer. Okay, so if this is the source at this point, as it approach, as the distance is getting closer to the source, dia akan ada satu point where the observed frequency will be equal to the source punya frequency. Okay, but as it is moving away, the frequency is reducing. It goes down lah, the observed frequency. Okay, so that is what you need to know based on this diagram. So basically you have to be able to draw this diagram lah. Okay, so yes, that is basically the theory for subtopic 10.5.